The Toyota RAV4 is the one that started this crossover SUV craze around the world. It is still one of the best-selling models around, and for many good reasons. This model has excellent fuel economy. It also delivers in all of the areas where commuter vehicles should perform best. This model created such a great legacy that it's close to impossible for the competition to dethrone the RAV4. But there are some things that we're not thrilled with, so if you want to learn what these flaws are, stay with us while we cover the 8 things that Toyota RAV4 owners are not thrilled with. Con number 8. No turbocharged engine. One big downside of the Toyota RAV4 is the fact that this model doesn't offer a turbocharged engine. So why is this a bad thing? Well, the 2.5-liter inline-4 that is currently offered with the RAV4 is good for fuel economy. It breaks records, but some people look for excitement. And what's better than a turbocharged engine? With this engine, you get a ton of torque, especially at the low RPM band, which will give you the acceleration that you can't get with a standard naturally aspirated engine. So having Toyota add a more powerful turbocharged application will attract a lot of buyers who want to get something more powerful and exciting. A perfect candidate for this purpose will be the 2.4 inline-4 turbo that is offered with the Toyota Tacoma and the other bigger Toyota SUVs like the new Land Cruiser. For this application, Toyota can introduce a slightly detuned version that'll still greatly outperform the 2.5-liter in terms of torque delivery and responsiveness. Another method that Toyota can do to improve the performance of the RAV4 is by installing a more powerful electric motor on the hybrid version. This motor, combined with a naturally aspirated 2.5-liter engine, can deliver decent power. Still, it's up to Toyota to decide what kind of engine will be added to improve its performance. The obvious impression is that this model needs more power, and that's a fact. Con number 7. Mediocre towing and payload capacity. The towing capacity of the RAV4 is not one of its strong points. This SUV can only tow up to 1,500 pounds, which is pretty mediocre. For comparison, the Jeep Cherokee has a towing capacity between 2,000 and 4,500 pounds, which is pretty massive performance for an SUV in this class and easily beats everyone out there. When it comes to the Toyota RAV4, you'll be able to tow up to 3,500 pounds only if you get the TRD off-road. Limiting the max towing capacity to one of the most expensive trims is kind of a ripoff in our opinion. This is because of the fact that the TRD off-road model doesn't offer anything new under the skin, except for the all-wheel drive system. We honestly think that the base trim should also get this treatment and offer more towing capability for the buyer. Cars nowadays are crazy expensive and you need to get the most features for your buck. Making money isn't easy, and car makers should milk features as extras for thousands of dollars more. Also, the payload and cargo capacity of the RAV4 are pretty limited. But to be honest, we cannot expect more in this area. That's why there are different classes of vehicles out there. If you need more payload and cargo performance, you'll definitely want to get the new Toyota Land Cruiser instead. This model should be released next year. Con number 6. Poor off-road performance. The off-road performance of the Toyota RAV4 is not one of the best in its class. This is the case because this is a compact crossover SUV. Crossover SUVs, for those who don't know, might look like vehicles capable in terms of off-road duties, but this is not the case. The first thing is that these vehicles lack suspension for this purpose. Crossover SUVs look more like jacked-up cars rather than proper off-road vehicles. Crossovers are a combination of car body that sits on a higher ground clearance with the help of bigger wheels and tires. That's it. So these models are pretty lacking compared to a Ford Bronco or a Jeep Wrangler. Even the transfer case doesn't offer anything special when it comes to tackling off-road terrain. This was not the case with some of the earlier RAV4 models. Back in the day, the Toyota RAV4 was a really capable off-roading vehicle, and modern RAV4 models are simply lacking in this area. That's why even with the TRD off-road model, you shouldn't expect a lot because the only thing that makes a difference in this model is the all-wheel drive system. And the all-wheel drive is not like a four-wheel drive system that you really want when it comes to proper off-roading. The difference between the two is that the all-wheel drive system is a system that engages automatically when you lose traction, while the four-wheel drive system is engaged by the driver. Con number 5. Lower trim levels feel cheap. Another downside and a major thing of dissatisfaction from RAV4 owners is the plain interior that you get with this model. The interior is the plainest that it can get. The only thing that is worse is if you lack power windows and airbags. Luckily, even the most basic RAV4 models offer these features. Jokes aside, the interior of the RAV4 is not something that you'll be proud of, especially the seats that look really basic and don't offer any kind of support. The cloth seats in the base RAV4 are very bad. The cheapness is everywhere, starting with the choice of materials that you get. The interior is filled with hard plastic, especially at the lower portions like the glove box, center console, and door panels. The design might be good and modern, but overall, the base models don't look like something that you'll really enjoy much. In addition to this, the infotainment screen is very small and lacks a lot of the functionality that you get with the higher-end models of the RAV4. That's why the most basic version is not something that we would recommend, since this vehicle does not offer a better experience than a Toyota from the mid-2000s. One thing that we would like Toyota to do is to fix the seats. They need to design more comfortable seats. We really love what they did with the new Toyota Tacoma and its interior, and we honestly hope that this will also come to other models like the RAV4. Con number 4. Noise in cabin. Many owners also reported high noise levels inside the cabin. The RAV4 tends to be noisier compared to the competition. When we talk about noise, we mean road noise and engine noise. So what does this mean? This means that the RAV4 is not one of the best insulated models around. This is the case because Toyota probably decided to go cheap on insulation materials, and this reflected in higher decibels of noise inside of the cabin. Considering the fact that there are complaints on this issue, we really hope that Toyota will finally fix the problem and update the insulation in the cabin in order for the Toyota RAV4 to be more comfortable and less distracting while driving. Con number 3. Stiff suspension. In addition to the noise, customers also reported that the Toyota RAV4 has stiff suspension, meaning that it's not comfortable to drive because you can feel the bumps. And this is another drawback in our opinion because this is a commuter vehicle, a vehicle that will take you from point A to point B in comfort. And if you start to feel every bump, driving can become a rather frustrating thing to deal with on a day-to-day basis. So, we think that Toyota should include some softer suspension in the newer models and make the RAV4 a more comfortable vehicle to drive. This can be done simply by adding softer shocks and springs, although it's not very complex to alter the suspension. But why would you do that, since this should be done by the factory, isn't that correct? So Toyota should improve in this area in order to not lose sales. Softer suspension and more comfortable seats will be the key upgrades in the entry-level models. Con number 2. Vague steering. The steering input was also described as vague, so what does this mean? Well, this means that you get very little feedback from the steering wheel. You basically feel like you're not connected with the steering. Imagine how cars in the 60s and 70s drove. Well, that's also the case with the Toyota RAV4, although not at that scale since technology has greatly improved. But the feedback that you get from the steering can be described simply as mediocre and lifeless. So we strongly hope that Toyota will upgrade the steering and make the RAV4 have a lot sharper steering that will make the driver more connected with the car. Con number 1. High price for well-spec'd models. The price for the Toyota RAV4 can be pretty steep, especially nowadays when prices of models are going through the roof. So even the base model is very expensive and starts at $28,275, and prices can go up to $39,000 for the well-equipped hybrid models, and that's more than a $10,000 difference. But with these upper trims, you will avoid the plain entry-level LE model. Our personal favorites are the XLE or XSE, and also the TRD Off-Road is not bad considering the fact that this model will give you a decent off-road capability. On top of that, there are a ton of other features like the TRD interior accents and a ton of off-road equipment. Thanks for watching and see you next time.